So here we are. We're back looking at our net security opportunity. Just in the last video, we answered the questions, transferred it and answered the questions. In this one, we want to take a look at the analysis. So let me just go to the analysis here, and you can see it. And we looked at it very quickly in the last video, and the conclusions we had were pretty obvious. This is a poorly qualified opportunity. But I know that, and that is not a surprise. There are huge gaps in my knowledge about this opportunity, and really what this represents is the starting point. So this is where we are today, and now the question is, how do we move it forward so that we do two things? We increase the degree of qualification, which, as you know, we do so by identifying the missing information and obtaining it, and we increase the probability of winning the deal by implementing the action items and developing the sales strategy. But let's just take a look here at the analysis. So, let me go over to the detailed SWOT analysis here and take a look right here. And we have the terms of how well the opportunities defined. It's not defined very well. Always you want to have that number up into the the high 80s and 90s. So we don't have a good definition. We have a high level view of what's going on. And Linda, my contact, was pretty good about that. She told me what they were looking for, what their objectives were, and the reason. So when I look at this, you can see the range, uncertainty range for this goes from 60 to 82, which is very high. We need to tighten it up and get a better definition. And when I look at this, I look at the low end. Be very conservative and say, the opportunity is maybe defined to 60% of what it could be. So when I look at my solution, I see my solution can go as even a broader range. And that makes sense, is because I don't have a good definition of the opportunity, it's pretty hard to put together a solution or even my ideas behind the solution. What am I proposing? What will I be proposing? Shooting at a moving target. So that's not a surprise. And so from the technical qualification perspective, which is how well does my solution match the requirements and how well are the requirements defined, it's pretty low at this point in time. And you could say it's 60-70%. Okay, fair enough. There's some work to be done there. In terms of how much information or how much knowledge I have about how this customer buys in the decision process, well, I don't know anybody in the decision process. I haven't met them. I don't even know their names. And I'm not sure that Linda's part of the decision process. I think she is, but I haven't confirmed it. So it's not a surprise that I'm at 5% and at extreme risk. But again, this is a very early stage opportunity, and that there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. That's where I want to be. It's an indication that the deal is in the early stages. In terms of the relationship, you can see it goes from 14% up to 73%, huge variance. And I have a relationship with Linda. I think is pretty good. I haven't met the technical people or the decision makers, and I may be a little bit optimistic at the high end. But again, be conservative, and I'm going to go down to this low end here, which is less than 20%. So fundamentally, it says I haven't developed relationships with the key people in this project, and that's correct. I haven't. So in terms of competition, and you can see it's a great variance here from 0 to 99. I don't know if there's competition. If there isn't, that's great. But it's hard to imagine in an opportunity like this at this value, there wouldn't be a bunch of competitors. We know most of them. And so that we want to, keep an eye on all that stuff. So we'll get that information as we move through. In terms of the timing, and you see this is another huge variance, 23 to 70. And, certainly Linda has given me a date or a time frame that says they want to get this done in the summer, and I put in August 18th more as a placeholder than anything. So, that makes sense. I need to tighten that up. So let me just now go back to the summary information. And as you know, the way we approach this is the first step is always to improve the degree of qualification. And if you look here, we have to improve the degree of qualification across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 6 categories. The process side is reasonably well qualified, but most of the answers are no, like I haven't met them, I don't know who they are, I don't know how they're measured, I don't even know if there's a key influencer involved, that kind of stuff. So the first thing to do is to determine what information is missing. And, easy enough to do. I'll just, here it is. Here's a list of all the information I need to go and get. And, I'll print this out and I'll have it available for my next meeting with Linda. And there's quite a bit of stuff, but, this is a complex sale, so one would expect it. And I'll review the action items too, because there may be a number of action items that I can implement now while I'm in. I mean, the action items fundamentally are to turn the no's into yeses, and when I have a yes, is to build on the yes to strengthen our position. So again, a lot of action items too. Now, in terms of the velocity chart, we've only had the one entry, so we wouldn't expect to see anything here. And remember that the velocity chart is something called a step chart. And a step chart needs two entries, two entry points in order to create the line between them. So it's when the next update happens that I'll start to see anything here. So my next steps, let's just put down what my next steps are here, because I need to, my boss will look at this, and this is a great way for me to communicate with him. So let's go with the last meeting. And the last meeting, the meeting I had with Linda was February 09 with Linda W. And, it was basically high level. It was a high level discussion. I'm just going to key and chat here at the same time. Discussion. It was very open, by the way, concerning what happened and what their needs were, and high-level discussion of WRB requirements. Now, I mean, one of the things I did get out of Linda was, this is what they're looking for, and I was able to ask why, which is a great question, of course. And they had a couple of security breaches. I'm not sure how many, so I'll put this down, a couple of security breaches in their network. She didn't go into too much detail about it, but I got the impression that it was enough to kind of send a shockwave through the organization, which is not uncommon. I mean, there are, you get this these situations, these blackmail situations, where you get a security breach and some hacker will lock up the database and blackmail the company that if they don't pay so much money, they're going to keep the data locked and the company can't access it. So I don't know if it was like that, or if they lost, intellectual property, but it did cause, a couple of security breaches caused a whole, I'm going to put a whole raft of problems, and I got, that just went to the top of the house in terms of the executive committee. So that was what we discussed, and also discussed the release, discussed the RFP, or sorry, statement of requirements. I'll put RFP in brackets here, and when it was going to be available. It'll be available in a couple of months, but again, we're early stage, so I'm not too concerned at this point in time. So I'll save that, and now I want to talk about my next meeting. my next steps. So when I look at the next steps, I think what I need to do is I have a follow-on meeting in, I think about, I just need to confirm it, but in a couple of weeks with Linda. So let me just put a follow-on meeting with LW. And we're going to, my objective is obtain greater definition of requirements. This is over and above the statement of requirements of the RFP. There's a lot more to a client's requirements or customer requirements than just an RFP. So I want to get some background, greater definition of requirements, specifically as it relates to some of their issues, their hacking. Let's call it hacking issues. So I need to know also who's involved in decision process. What I'm really digging for here, and I'll make a note, is whether or not they're going to go internally. Just stay internally and do it. Whether or not. Or if they will involve an outside consultant. So, I mean, that's an important thing, because that outside consultant will be a key influencer, a very key person. You know, I also want to identify their technical resources and personnel. Let me put this down. Personnel, so I can connect our guys. Specifically, we have a guy named Dominic Chan. Who's just a wizard at this stuff. I'd like to get him involved as quickly as possible. Not only is he really technically superior, but a bit of a sales guy too. So he's quite a lot of fun to work with. And competition. As I said, I expect some competition, external competition. But is there any internal competition? That would be a key one to find out. And so if I can get that on the next meeting, you know, looking at, I've got my list of missing information and all the rest of it. If I can get that, then I would have to say I'll be happy. So as I said, my boss will look at that, and at least he knows what my next steps are. You know, he's always asking, you know, when do you last meet them? Any issues and concerns? What's your next steps? So what I'll do too is I'll probably send a copy of the PDF over to Dominic. Let me just download it here, and I'll save it there. And I think I can open it here. Let me see. Yep, there it is. So I'll send this over to Dominic and give him a call, and we'll go and go through the whole thing. Anyway, that's about it. Let me bring this particular video to a close, and the next one will be after I've met with Linda in a couple of weeks or 10 days, whatever it is. So bye for now.